Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's Kate Caruth here from Creative Words with some content gold on a Wednesday afternoon. Something new. Today, I'm sitting with Al Tepper and I'm going to let him introduce himself in a moment or two. But what we're going to do in this series of videos is we're going to talk about content in the context of a whole series of different marketing professionals. So they'll all work in different fields, they'll all do different things. But I want to get their perspective and their view on content. So, Al, thank you very much for being my first victim.
You're very
Uh,
welcome.
Start just by introducing yourself. You know the drill, who you are, your business, the kinds of people you help.
Okay, no problem. I am Al Tepper. I've been in marketing for 30 years, since 1994, technically, but we'll call it an even 30. Um, I run a very different, unique marketing agency that provides marketing coaching and fractional marketing leadership, and also flexes as an agency to suit the client. So I'm merely a marketing conductor of the orchestra, and what I will do for every client is I'll build the orchestra. I'll bring in the relevant people from my black book to suit the client's needs, as opposed to having a structured agency where I need to keep selling a certain set of products and services to maintain that agency. So that's me in a nutshell.
Cool.
Um, yeah, ask me anything. Great to
Fab.
be here.
It's probably worth saying that Al is also my marketing coach. And one of the
Right.
reasons I've started doing these is because he's been encouraging me to do things like this. So thank you, Al.
You're
Uh,
very welcome.
so let's start with the basics. We're going to talk about content. When I say content, what does that actually mean in your world?
That's a great question because I think a lot of people struggle with this. For me, content is a signal. It's not a word on a page. It's not a visual on a screen. Content is anything that signals something to somebody. It could be a conversation in a petrol station. It could be a sign you see as you're on the train. Content is everywhere. Content is the currency of communication, really, for me. Does that make sense?
That makes well, it makes perfect sense to me, but it's always really useful to have that definition in place so that when we're having a conversation, we make sure that we're having the same conversation in a
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
So it's always a good question to ask. So if someone comes to me and says, "I need more content," I'll say, "Well, what do you mean?
Yes.
What's content in your mind?" So,
Yes.
and obviously what we do is written content, and that's our
Yes. Yes. Of
biggest
course.
piece. And we
Of
connect,
course.
like you do, we connect with other people if they're looking for other things. But
Yes.
when it comes to the written content, why does that matter in your business? Why is that important for Tepfu?
Well, of all of the signals out there, um, driven by content, um, the written word is only you know rivaled by the spoken word for me.
Mm.
And visuals are very important, but and a picture is worth a thousand words. However, the thousand words are really important, and I would say a thousand words is worth a picture as well. And so the written word, something society has been working off of for you know well, since certainly in the West, since Gutenberg invented the printing press,
Mm.
for many hundreds of years, we have been a written society. We have moved past the oral tradition, and so written content is fundamental to marketing. You couldn't. I don't know anybody that goes to market without the written word. There are lots of people who go to market without video and without great beautiful brands, and but the written word is kind of the stock in trade of marketing. I would say you can't communicate without it. You can't rely just on word of mouth. You can't rely on fantastic visuals. Ultimately, people want to read stuff on a page, whether it's who you are, who you help, testimonials, case studies, brochures. I just think the written word is front and center, really.
Brilliant. And for your clients, when it comes to content, what do they find are the big obstacles? Where do they get stuck?
Um, I think the biggest areas, most of them are not writers, so they don't want to write, they don't know how to write, they don't know what to write, and I think they have an incredible amount of anxiety, overwhelm, and fear around creating content. I don't know where to start. I don't know what to do. I'm no good at this. I don't want to say the wrong thing and put that on my website and then look an idiot. I think most people are seriously out of their depth. I think we all think we have to be Shakespeare to write. And the truth is, we don't. Thank
Mm.
God. I mean, if everyone was Shakespeare, life would be a nightmare. Trying to read a plumber's website, and if they're Shakespeare, would be fun, wouldn't it? I mean,
Oh, we could have some
verily,
fun with that idea,
yeah,
couldn't we?
indeed,
Let's have a
verily,
play.
verily, the pipe is blockedeth. I mean, I
Yes.
just think, thank God that everybody's not Shakespeare. And actually, what people want when they're reading content on a website, a brochure, or anything in marketing context is simplicity and clarity. They don't want complexity and flowery language. And it's not there to win the Nobel Prize in literature. It's there to communicate to a potential customer what you do, who you do it for, and what people say about you. So the funny thing is, I think most businesses overcomplicate the content problem.
Mhm.
And actually, when they speak to a professional like you, the first thing that I find you do is, well, let's simplify it. I mean, I may be your marketing coach, but you're my content lead on multiple projects, and I overcomplicate stuff, and I regularly get messages from you saying, "Can we change this bit of language because that's really clever, but we don't need clever, we need clear." And the recent
You make me
conversation
sound
around
very polite
ROI.
about it.
Well, indeed. Sometimes you are very polite, and sometimes, if I irritate you, I'm sure you could be less polite. But so far, so good. Um, and I think it's an exercise in clarity, simplicity, and concision. And I think there's an art form there. It's not easy. And so most clients are just like, the amount of web projects I've been involved with over the last 30 years that have been completely hamstrung and delayed because the client can't create content is, I mean, that is definitely the biggest reasons websites don't go live,
Mm.
like without question, because the content isn't ready, the client doesn't want to do, and they don't want to pay for a copywriter or a content agency like you. They think they can do it themselves, and then 6 months later, they still haven't done it.
Guess what? Yeah.
And if they'd have just outsourced it, they'd have done it within 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, it's depending on the complexity. So it's an interesting conundrum, really, because nobody wants to do it, nobody's any good at it, but they won't let anyone else do it. And it's
Mm.
like, well, take as long as you like. So yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge, really.
And we can't not talk about AI and its
Mm.
role in all of this. So why not? If you are that client who is stuck, who is struggling with all of this, doesn't want to pay for a copywriter, why not just go for ChatGPT? Why bother with a human?
Well, I mean, that's a massive question right now. It was a whole of society. Content is definitely being disrupted by AI, but the problem is it's a race to the bottom.
Mm.
And what that means for businesses, you may as well just go and buy a website that's a complete clone of your competitor. Because AI, even if you're a prompting genius, AI can only work off of what it's learned.
Mm.
And so it's very difficult for AI to be creative and original. I'm sure there will be people who will disagree with me. And yes, you could incrementally argue that AI can be creative, but endgame, it can't be because it can only work off of the large language model it's been trained on.
Mm.
And so there's an end game there where we all end up just copying off each other, and looking more and more the same. And eventually we'll all just be clones in dungarees marching around for porridge. It doesn't work. Yes, AI has incredible value. And yes, with increasing complexity, we can do more and more, but it's a never ending problem. I was going to say the word Ouroboros. An Ouroboros is a snake that eats its
It
own
eats itself,
tail,
yeah.
and that's, yeah, it eats itself, not its own tail. It's a circular snake that just keeps eating itself, and that's, for me, AI is an Ouroboros. It doesn't bring anything new apart from operational scale, the ability to do stuff quickly, but the price you pay, pardon me, is one of creativity and humanity. And ultimately, we still live in a world, I would argue, um, I would argue even more now than ever before, thanks to digital, we live in a world where people buy from people.
Mm.
And none of us are stupid. Ultimately, when we're reading AI content, unless it's in the top, 1% of clever, most of the time, most of us, we get a vibe. It just feels the same. It feels familiar. It doesn't, it's hollow. It doesn't have a soul.
Mm.
And there are people who would argue AI has a soul. I don't think AI has a soul. Of course not. How could it? Because it's not a living, breathing thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great tool. It's a dangerous rabbit hole. But Pandora's box is open. We're not putting AI back in a box.
Mm.
Nobody puts AI in the corner, to quote a famous film. Um, but we have to be responsible and careful in how you use it. Otherwise, we'll just end up looking like our competition. Which, if you're trying to use content to differentiate yourself, which you should be, absolutely you should be, um, you're just gonna be really samey. So I think I would, yeah, there's a place for AI content, and there's a place for AI as a tool, but don't just do everything on AI all the time, because otherwise, where's the spark? Where's the connection? And there won't be. So, you know,
Yeah.
you still need you still need a human brain. And the proof is no one has written a Harry Potter-esque book on AI yet, and I don't think they ever will.
Mm.
No one's written. We can all tell AI to write me a sonnet in the context of Shakespeare, and in the style of Shakespeare, about why I lose a sock every time I do a wash. And it will produce, I mean, that's a pretty random thought. It will
Yeah.
produce a beautiful sonnet that looks like Shakespeare, but it won't have um, the gravity of Shakespeare. It can't do.
Mm.
So I mean, it was a bit like, the notion of Deep Blue and chess. And yes, eventually Deep Blue beat Gary Kasparov,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it still lacks a lot. And brute force, and that's what we're dealing with. AI has brute force computing capability. It can just overwhelm a human, but that doesn't mean it can outthink or outwit a human. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And for any of our younger viewers, Google Gary Kasparov and Deep Blue, and you'll then
Yeah.
understand the reference. I remember it. So
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed. It's a fascinating test, and
yeah,
I think there's also the Turing test as well around,
that's it. Yeah.
can a computer mimic a human conversation and trick a human? Um, and yes, it can ultimately, because of brute force, because because you can connect an unlimited number of compute, and quantum computing is going to make this even worse.
Mm.
But the spark won't be there. And don't forget, it's not just about, oh, we need a website, let's just smash out some content and it's good enough. You're missing a massive trick. That's like only driving your car in first gear. Yeah, it'll get you to a destination, but it's going to be really expensive and slow. So you want your website, you want your content, your brochures, you want them to be in fifth gear. You want them to be uh, optimal and leveraging language as opposed to just smashing out some words. It's much more
Yeah.
than that.
Brilliant. So, anyone who's listening who's struggling with content, what's one tip from your perspective as a marketing coach, as a marketing specialist? What's one tip that you can give people to just help them take a step forward?
Well, the obvious one is speak to you. I would
Yeah,
say
you're
that,
not
but
allowed to have that one. That's
no,
not
no,
allowed.
no. I mean, but don't feel like you're on your own. But if you are feeling like you're on your own, the most important thing with content is to zoom out a bit and to put it in some context. What's the content for? Who's the content for? What do you want the content to achieve? If you are just saying, "Oh, we're doing a new website, just need some content on the page," you're wasting your time. You're killing yourself, because that's not the purpose of the content. The purpose of the content is to establish that you are the best person, and they shouldn't go and look at any of the other three tabs they opened when they searched on Google. Who's it for? Speak to your audience. Don't talk about you. The greatest crime websites commit is they talk about themselves. We're brilliant. We do this, and
I
we're
call it
really
weeing all over your website.
weeing all over your. Don't we all over your website, right? You want to you all over your website, which
Yeah.
doesn't quite have the same ring, but
No.
um, but that's the point. Think about the context of the content, and and then give it a place. Get a piece of paper and draw that map of context out. Who's it for? What do we want it to achieve? How will it differentiate us? What are our differentiators? Why should people use us as a plumber rather than Joe Smith, who's also a plumber? What?
Yeah.
Give people a reason to pick up the phone or send you an email or book in, with you. Give people a reason. Don't just chase the lowest common denominator and feel like, yeah, we've got a website, we put some words on it, and then nothing's going to happen. And then what you're going to do is you're going to blame the web developer, you're going to blame everybody else. But ultimately, you have to own it. It's your business. So slow it down, zoom out, give the content some context, and understand that it's part of the customer journey. And this is also super important. The customer is on a journey to find a solution to a problem they have.
Mhm.
If you believe you're the solution, build that case. Like as if you were arguing someone over football or Love Island. Build the case why you're right. Why are we the best plumber? Why should you use us? What do other people say about us? Give it some legs, give it some foundations, and then your website will convert for people. It will convert prospects for you,
Yeah.
and you'll get phone calls from from people looking at your website saying, "This is brilliant. Be different. Do something different. Don't just be the same as everybody else. Look at how you can use language and words to be different." I mean, for example, I joked earlier about a sonnet. You know, I'm not saying this is a good idea, but if there was a plumber who produced a website and there was a tab at the top of the website and it said plain English, and you could see the website in plain English, and then you could flick a switch and it would be Shakespearean English. I mean, we'd all be talking about it, wouldn't we? It would all be over
Yeah.
social because people would be like,
There,
oh my God.
there is a firm of plumbers in central London who turn up in black tie.
There you go. There you go. And
Yeah,
this is the point.
they are not cheap,
No, I'm sure they're not, but
but they're in Piccadilly. So,
the perception is they're going to be good, aren't they? Because they're plumbers who show up in black tie. I mean, you
yeah.
would expect to pay a premium for that, but you would expect a premium service. And so this is the point. People apologize for my coughing. Um, people people just do the bare minimum and then wonder why it doesn't work. Use
Yeah.
your words cautiously and carefully and cleverly. Do something different. You know, um, and I'll give you one more example. There's a fantastic dentist in Enfield in London, and during lockdown, he took the words of famous songs and changed it to be dentistry related and
Right. Yeah.
recorded it on YouTube. And he's called the Singing Dentist.
Oh,
And
cool. I
he
shall
ended
look
up
him
being
up.
on TV. Yeah, I mean, he's great. He's got like a few 100,000 followers. He sells T-shirts. I dare say his surgery is booked shocker forever. And I
Mm.
think he opened other surgeries on the back of it. So, he's built an entire living off of this. And I think
Yeah.
that's the lesson. Be different and build a living. Don't just, plop some words on a page and expect it to make a difference.
Cool. And if anyone who's listening likes the cut of your jib and thinks, oh, I'd love to know more about Al and Tepfu and marketing coaching and all of those kinds of things, what's the best way for them to do that?
The best way is to go to www.lzymrktng, lazymarketing.com without the vowels.
Right.
So it's very easy
I shall
to
put a
remember it.
link in the I shall put a
Yes.
link in the post. I can
Um,
probably my YouTube skills are minimal. I can probably put something on the
yes,
bottom of the page or something like that for people as
indeed.
well. But I'll definitely put the link in the link in the post so people can
Fabulous.
find it. Fabulous. Brilliant. Al, thank you very much for your time, for the immense value that you've just given as part of that. And we will be back on another Wednesday with some more content gold to brighten your day.
Thank you for
That's
inviting
it
me.
for today. Have a creative afternoon.